Alright, let's go ahead and start the review for O362 final exam. And starting with problem 1, factor the following polynomials completely. I'm going to be using a trial and error method here. So I'm trying to find the factors of 2 and 3 which add up to -5. I repeat, factors of 2 and 3 which add up to -5. So I'm just going to have two parentheses here. The first two spots are for factors of 2. So factors of 2 are 2 and 1. The next spots are factors of 3, which are 3 and 1. Now let me go ahead and see if that would give me a 5. So 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. Now 3 and 2 do give me a 5, but I need a -5. So let me go ahead and change the signs here. -1, -3. So now I have -3 and -2. That gives me a -5. So all I have to do is go back and put my x's here, and this is an x. So my final answer here would be 2x minus 3 and x minus 1. There could be another way that you're doing it. As long as you get the right answer, it doesn't matter. But always check and cross-check, because 2 times 1 should be 2. And -3 times -1 is +3. And when you multiply the middle terms, you end up with a -5. That means you're on the right track. Moving on to the next problem. I'm trying to find the factors of 3x cubed minus 18x squared plus 15x. But wait a minute, the constant should not have an x in the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and factor it. So when I factor it, I have 3x squared minus 18x plus 15. But wait a minute, I still see a 3, 3, and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out as well. So now I'm going to have x squared minus 6x plus 5. Now you don't have to do this in 2 steps. You can go ahead and do it in 1 step. But sometimes students get confused. So I like to do the x's first and then the numbers. Now once I have done that, I know that this can be factored further. So the factors of this are, I'm trying to find the factors of 5 that add up to -6. Factors of 5 are -5 and -1. When I add them up, -5 plus -1, which gives me a -6. So x and x. And that is going to be my final answer. Now, moving on to the next one. This is still factoring. Remember how many terms you see. You see 2 terms here. So when I see 2 terms, I know it's a difference of squares. So when I see this 4x squared, I know 4x is nothing but... Alright, so the next one here is find the product and simplify if possible. So they're asking me to find the product and simplify. So what I'm going to do here is, when I look at a problem like this, the first thing that comes into my mind is factoring. So when I look at it, I can see I can factor a lot of stuff here. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with x squared minus 49. I know that x squared minus 49 is a difference of squares, so I can factor it as x plus 7 and x minus 7. Remember, I'm not changing anything. I'm simply factoring it. Times, I'm going to rewrite that, x plus 4 over x. Now looking at x squared minus 3x minus 28, I know I can factor that as well. The factors of 28 are 7 and 4. Remember, I need to get a -28 and a -3. So 7 times 4 gives me 28, but I want a -28. So if I make the 7 negative and 4 positive, I get a -28. And if I add them, I get a -3. Bingo. So x7 is negative and 4 is positive. Now, the most common mistake students do is you try to cancel this x with this x. Remember, you're not supposed to do that because the x and 4 are bonded together with a plus sign. You cannot cancel the x when you have a plus sign next to it. Either you take the x plus 4 together or you leave it alone. Okay? So you're not going to do that. I'm going to rewrite this one here. So this is going to be x plus 4 over x. Now, once I see that, remember what I told you, you can take out the x plus 4 together. So x plus 4 cancel each other, x minus 7 cancel each other. What am I left with? I'm simply left with x plus 7 over x. Remember, doing problems like this, you have to take your time. Do not rush. So the more you rush, there's a more chance you're going to make a mistake. Moving on to the next problem. Perform the indicated operation. They're asking us to subtract. When it comes to subtraction or addition of fractions, remember I need a common denominator. But this is not, my denominators are not the same. So what do? I'm going to go ahead and make them the same denominators. So the least common denominator of x and 6x is 6x. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to do it step by step. So x plus 2 over x minus x minus 5 over 6x. Remember, I cannot subtract if I don't have the common denominator. So common denominator is 6x. So this is 6x. Well and good. What about this one? This is not a 6x here. What do? I times this with 6. When I times the denominator, I should not forget about my friend, the numerator. I should go ahead and multiply it with 6. So when I multiply, and again, let me tell you the common mistakes the students make. They just multiply the 6 and the x and forget about the 2. No, the 6 has to be multiplied with x and well as the 2. So 6 times 2 is 12. Do not forget to do that. Minus x minus 5 over 6x. Now that I have a common denominator, I'm going to go ahead and do what they asked me to do, which is subtract. And again, let me tell you the common mistakes students make. So I have the same denominator. So negative 6x plus 12. They're asking you to subtract the x and also the 5. Do not forget that. So what students do is they simply change the sign of the x and forget to change the sign of the 5. Now you have to change the sign of the 5 as well to positive 5 because you're subtracting the whole x minus 5. So when you distribute the negative sign, negative times x is negative x, negative times negative is positive 5. And this is the common mistakes the students make. So please make sure you don't do that. Alright, so once I have everything written down, I'm going to go ahead and simplify. Negative 6 and negative x gives me negative 7x. 12 and 5 gives me 17 over 6x. Your final answer. So together, the belts would move in 1 minute is 11 over 18. Remember, I'm trying to find the x here. It's a proportion. So I simply cross multiply. So I have 11x is equal to 18. Dividing both sides with 11. X is equal to 18 over 11. So you can either give the answer as 18 over 11, or if you want, you can change it into a mixed number. All right, the next problem is given the function f of x is equal to x squared minus 3x plus 1, find the following: f of 3, f of 0, f of negative 1. So what's happening is they're giving you the function and asking you to find the function value when they plug in 3 in place of x. when they plug in 0 in place of x, when they plug in -1 in place of x. So you should know what to do by now. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace our x with 3. So instead of x squared, we now have 3 squared minus 3 times 3 plus 1. And that would be 9 minus 9 plus 1, which is 1. So f of 3 is equal to 1. So I'm telling you that when I plug x as 3, my y value is 1. F of 0, so 0 squared minus 3 times 0 plus 1, which is 1 again. So I'm trying to tell you that when I plug 0 in place of x, my function value is 1. Now let me go ahead and plug -1. That was -1, right? Yeah. So it is -1 squared minus 3 times -1 plus 1. -1 squared is 1. -3 times 3 is 3. So -3 times -1 is 3 plus 1. The answer is 5. Moving on to the next problem. Oh, we still have another one. F of -2. So -2 squared -3 times -2 plus 1. -2 times -2 is 4. -3 times -2 is positive 6 plus 1, which ends up in 11. Let me see if we have one more here. I don't think so. Alright, so use the graph of the function f to find f of 2 and f of -2. So remember, f of x is equal to y. So they're asking us to find f of 2. That means they gave you the x value. They're asking you to find the respective y value. So what I would do is I would start with x equal to 2. X is equal to 2, and let me go ahead and find the respective y value. This is my graph, and the y value here is 3. So I know that f of 2 is equal to 3. They asked me to find f of -2 as well. So where is my -2? My x is -2. I go all the way to the graph. What's my respective y value? -3. So f of -2 is equal to -3. All right, let's move on to the next one. Solve the system of equations by substitution method. They're asking us to solve in a substitution method. That means I'm going to take an equation and substitute into another equation. Looking at these two equations here, I know that my y is already cleaned up in my second equation. So I'm going to take this and plug it into the other. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I am plugging my y into my first equation. So 3x minus 7y is equal to 17. That's my first equation, correct? But remember what I'm doing? I'm substituting my y. What is my y? So I'm going to go ahead. 3x minus 7. So when I multiply this, 7 times x is 7x. -7 times -3 is positive 21 is equal to 17. I can combine these two. I end up with -4x plus 21 is equal to 17. I subtract 21 from both sides. What do I end up with? -4x is equal to -4. Divide with -4 on both sides. I end up with x is equal to 1. Once I have my x as 1, I need to go ahead and find my y. How do I find it? I'm simply going to take this one and plug it in here. You can actually plug it into any of the equations, but I would like to plug it in here because it's nice and cleaned up for me. So y is equal to x minus 3. What did I get my x as? 1 minus 3. So y is equal to negative 2. So the point of intersection or the solution for this system of equations is 1 and negative 2. Let's move on to the next one. I think this is the last one for the page. All right, solve the system of equation by addition method. Let me expand this. Okay, we're trying to solve the system by addition method. In addition method, what we try to do is we try to have both the systems of equations in the same format. That's the first step. And then we try to eliminate one of the variables. In this case here, they're not in the same format. I have 6x and y on one side and the constant on the other side here, and I have y on one side and x on the other side. So I'm going to work with the first equation. So I have y is equal to 7 plus 3x. Remember, I want to have the same format as the previous one, so I'm simply going to subtract 3x from both sides. What happens now is I have y minus 3x is equal to 7. So I have x and y on one side, my constant on the other side, same as the case with the other one. Let me bring that equation down. Look what I'm doing here. I'm trying to write the x under the x's and the y's under the y's. And if you notice, I have not changed the sign. 6x is positive, 6x is positive. 2y is negative, 2y is negative. Okay, now let me go ahead and erase this one here so I can rewrite it. So my equations are y minus 3x is equal to 7. That's my first equation. And my second equation would be 6x minus 2y is equal to 14. Rewriting them, I'm going to use a different color so you can see. Y minus 3x is equal to 7. The other one is, remember, I'm going to write y's under y's and x's under x's. And now I'm going to go ahead and add these. Well, before I go ahead and add them, I need to make sure that I have the same coefficients for whatever variable I'm trying to eliminate. I'm going to try to eliminate y here. So the y has negative 2, and this y doesn't have any variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this whole equation with 2. When I multiply the whole equation with 2, I would have, I'm going to rewrite this equation here. I would write it in red. I would have 2y minus 6x is equal to 14. And the other equation in black, which is this one, negative 2y plus 6x is equal to negative 14. When I add them, everything cancels out. I have 0 is equal to 0. When you have a true statement like